Welcome to another episode of Spencer Uncensored. What's going on, folks? This is episode 63, going on over a year of spending and, maybe 20 minutes or so. Make sure this does not. There we go. All right. We're here. We're live. Thanks for those of you that are jumping in. Good to see you guys here. I would love to hear how you guys are feeling. Maybe drop it in the chat. Let us know what's happening, what's going on in your world. If you're watching the recording of this, you're more than welcome to drop that in the chat as you come on here. Let us know you're here. Maybe tell us where you're logging in from. I know we've got people on here from all over the United States. We got a couple in South Africa, different places in the world. So I'm jacked. All of you guys are here. Before anybody comes on here like, oh, let me hear this and then takes off, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about effective presentations. And I think that's an important conversation to be having right now, especially for the real estate community, because everybody's like everybody's screaming in your ear, all the trainers and the leaderships and all that kind of stuff is saying, you gotta know how to, share your value, hold your ground, all that conversation. And so today I'm going to help unpack some more for you here in this public forum. And then tomorrow night on Wednesday Night Live in my private forum, where we have those that are on the Unshakable HQ and also the agents that I work with at United Home Group, they all get private access. We're gonna unpack this even further and really get it into your presentations. So I am going to we're gonna get digging into this tonight, but you guys like the background? Y'all like this little background behind me? I decided for the first time ever to do a virtual background. I thought maybe I would put something up, and I forgot that I had this one. I'd created it some time ago. Thought that this was kind of neat because it's got the logo right there and got my name in this corner over here. So anyway, thought that was kind of neat. We're gonna maybe I'll play around with some different backgrounds as time progresses. We have been, this past week, we've been doing the Unshakable Planning Challenge. I am more than positive we're going to be doing that over and over, because everybody that's going through it right now is getting their mind blown. They're getting rearranged. They're like, oh, I got it now. And things are starting to kind of fall together at this stage of the game. We started on Thursday of last week. Today is Tuesday. So today was session number 4. They've got 2 more sessions, and we're gonna work on the process of having an unshakable business over the next 2 days. Excuse me. So we're gonna roll right on into finishing this out. We're gonna have a lot of really good momentum for these agents, creating some momentum and then also some mastery. We're going to help lay that out for them. So I'm excited about those that are doing the challenge. Keep an eye out on all my socials, because we're going to keep rolling that out. It is something that we actually do for free, because I think it's one of the most valuable things that I do, and I want people to be able to get it, because once they've gone through that challenge and they have a very strong sense about what they want, why they want it, and then who do they have to become, and then the how, all of those things come together, it really solidifies and clarifies some things for people, and they really can learn how to get going into their business. So it's a huge thing that we do. I'm excited about what we do there. So I'm gonna, by the way, if you're new to this, if you see me looking over here, it's because I got 2 screens going on, and that screen is the one that I look at your comments as you guys coming in. Right. So I can see that Dan's coming in from New Jersey. What's up, dude? Pressing on. So let's talk about presentations. How would you know if a presentation is effective? It really comes down to your communication. So how do you know that your communication is going to be effective in its delivery? Well, if it's effective for you, it probably means that you have learned to do some level of persuasion in helping elicit values from the other person, and then use those values to help them meet their intended goals. So if you're listening to this, you're probably a real estate agent, more than likely. That's the majority of this group. And real estate agents are sitting down with a homeowner, and we're figuring out what it is that they really want, what do they value, and then help them find how we can help them sell their house at the top dollar in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Those are the three things they want. Top dollar, least amount of hassle, and make them in the shortest amount of time. So when we clarify the values, we can then tailor the presentation. So when I did a little bit, I'm constantly learning, studying, listening to all kinds of things. And the podcasts and things that I listen to aren't always specific to like a real estate or even a business thing. And one of the most recent ones I was listening to was for speakers, and they were talking about effective communication. And I realized what they were sharing was perfect for this, for such a time as this for real estate agents. Now, we've been teaching this kind of stuff, but I never had it in words like this. So they were expressing or explaining how all the way back to Aristotle. Yeah, we're going to get Greek for a moment. Go all the way back to Aristotle. There were three elements that were critical in having a persuasive presentation. Now, tonight here, I just want to share them with you, touch base on a few of these pieces and maybe how you can implement them. And then I'm going to give you another segment on how to tee yourself up accordingly. Tomorrow, those of you that are in my insider group, we're going to go into this a little bit more in depth tomorrow, Wednesday Night Live, which is a lot more lively. It's even more lively. So, but here's the three elements. Okay. You've heard of these words before. You just probably didn't realize this is what they were. Pathos, logos, and ethos. Pathos, logos, and ethos. Pathos is the emotional appeal. Logos is the logical appeal. And ethos is the ethical appeal. All of your presentations must have all three of these things. So let's break this down a little bit. Pathos. If you're going to go into a presentation and you don't know how to tell stories and connect with people on a personal level, you're going to struggle. Because you've heard me say this before, it will never convert until we first connect. True? So this is where I last week we talked about this here, and we also been working on it heavily. You guys have to know about your story and who you are, right? And then in addition to that, you'll also be able to increase the storytelling by using stories and conversation around things that you've actually seen in the real estate business and create an emotion. I would tell homeowners all the time stories of other homeowners, and this is how they, right? This is why you would use the old, I don't know if you've ever heard somebody talk about feel, felt, found, right? You could do the same thing. You could say, well, I know exactly how you feel. Others felt the same way, and they found out X. So you need a repertoire of stories, and you need a repertoire of ways to communicate in storytelling as well. It could literally just be the activities and things that you do. This is why you have to get out and have a lot of conversations, move around and be active in real estate. If you're not actively moving around and having conversations with people, you're going to have a hard time telling stories. And maybe you're brand new and you're like, oh, I don't know, really, I don't have any stories. You can use other examples outside of real estate to still effectively create a result. But if it doesn't have storytelling, if it doesn't connect with people on a personal level, if you don't know how to ask questions and get them to tell stories and create the emotion, we're not going to have a whole lot here. Logos, it's the structured, logical part of this. which I think most real estate agents are, this is the part that I think everybody wants to do, because we think that because it's a real estate transaction, it is in fact a transaction. And so we've got to talk about numbers. We got to talk about the logical process of what we got to do to get your home on the market and do this. And same for the buyers, by the way, right? You guys are concerned about buyer agency stuff. It's the same thing, right? We want to talk about the process of the real estate process, and this is how it works, and this is what you're going to do, and this is why you need to do it. And we get very logically minded. Yes, you need to be able to do that. But this is why I teach most of our agents that you should be learning the statistics and how you can set yourself apart from those agents with numbers. We determined for one agent that they are able to, on average, they sell homes 4% higher than the average, meaning they get more for the house. So statistically, they could walk in and say, listen, homeowners that work with me, on average, will have a better shot at netting more money than the average agent. Most recently, I've been able to see X%. At the end of the day, I can hold our value much better than the average agent. If you don't know those numbers for yourself, you're going to have to work on getting that information for yourself. It creates the logical appeal to the whole discussion. This is also where you can use case studies and actually share. I had this situation and this is what we did and this is how it turned out. You want to simplify the complex part of this and make it simplistic enough for them to understand this is the logic of the whole thing. A, B, C, D. And when you communicate that with confidence, by the way, it helps people feel a little bit more comfortable about signing paperwork with you and let you represent them. Logos. Ethos is the ethical appeal. This is about building credibility and trust. So where you might have thought that pathos with the whole emotional conversation is about building trust, that just creates an emotional, heartfelt connection. What ethos will do is help build trust, credibility. This is one of the things that people appreciate about how I was doing business in the past, and I still to this day. It's why I'm come across kind of hardcore. Some people don't like it, but the truth is that they may not like me, but they sure will trust me because that's just the way I am. So building credibility and trust many times is going to come from things like testimonials, credentials, right? How long you've been in the business, that kind of thing, and your overall professional conduct. Y'all got any examples of professional conduct that might be useful? Let me give you one that's probably the most basic and yet will create a tremendous amount of trust. If you say you're going to call somebody, call them. If you're going to show up and you have an appointment at 6 p.m., be there at 6 p.m. And when you do that kind of thing, it builds an ethical trust with them that when you say you're going to do something and you do it, I now have a sense of trust. Now, sorry, I'm looking at my notes because I did a lot of work on this afternoon, primarily because I'm getting ready for Wednesday Night Live tomorrow night. And we're going to get this in a little bit more in depth. One of the most powerful things that I teach agents to do, and you need to make sure you're doing it now, when you're setting appointments, learn to pre-frame the entire presentation. Pre-framing is all the things you do before you show up. Pre-framing, if you think about, think of your favorite artist, music artist, right? There's a lot of pre-framing going on there. You've already experienced them on audio. You've seen them you've heard them on the radio. You might have seen them on YouTube. You bought and consumed things, but you've never experienced them in concert. But there's a lot of pre-framing there that you already have an expectation of what that's going to be like. You want to do that with your presentations. So if I'm going to set an appointment with you for tomorrow, There's a few things we need to do. Now, the emotional appeal of pathos might be a little difficult, but the truth is it's not, because people get connected to you from a storytelling perspective. Guess where? If you're watching this, you're probably watching it on Facebook or YouTube. Either one of those are social media platforms. Don't think for 2 seconds that if somebody sets an appointment with you, they're not Googling you or they're not looking you up. And they're going to connect with you through your social media and through the stories and the way that you present yourself out there. You can also do it through emails. You can pre-frame, and if you got a network of people, then maybe, by the way, this is one of the reasons why your sphere of influence will have a higher level of conversion, because we've already built that emotional connection, because we've stayed in touch with you for 2 to 3 years through constant emails and communication on social media. Your pre-framing also should include some level of logos, right? Logical. So when you send information in advance, you might want to give some process discussion. Personally, I actually sent the whole presentation in advance. The only thing I didn't send was the CMA type stuff, right? Or the paperwork. That stuff I did when I got there. But everything else, marketing plans and all that kind of stuff, I would send in advance, primarily because I need them to see all the logical process. This is also why I tell agents all the time, you should have a selling system. Like, what is your system for getting homes sold? You cannot just walk in there and say, I'm the greatest and I'm going to make it happen. How? Answer that question. Step 1, step 2, step 3. We're going to do this. Once you sign this paperwork, this is what's going to happen. We're going to make this happen. We're going to make that happen. These are all the steps. If you don't have that in place, you need to, because it helps create a logical aspect to the persuasion process. Y'all getting a masterclass tonight for free. Ethos is really powerful when it comes to pre-framing, because what you're doing is establishing some credibility. And you could do that with your email signature. Down at the bottom could have things like your testimonials. It could be all of your reviews. You could also throw in stories and throw in some credibility type things with testimonials. This is where the recognition of awards and things like that also can be useful. You have to be careful, because some people out in the public don't care for that if that's all you ever do, but it is an element. Right? This is part of the reason why some agents think it's a good idea to spend a bunch of money on having a fancy car, because it immediately creates some level of ethics. But it can also work against you if you pull up in a $120,000 Mercedes to a $200,000 home. They're going to look at you and go, this guy's overcharging. So it can work both ways. Previous clients, past testimonials, all that kind of thing. All that builds credibility, and you want that in your presentation. And you send that in advance. That's really the crux of the whole thing. We're not gonna go deeper into that tonight, but I want you to go back and think about your presentation. Is your presentation loaded with those 3 elements? If not, how do you get that in there? And then do you pre-frame the conversation enough with enough of this information so that when you get there, half of the battle is already won? That's what we're doing. So thank you for being here tonight. Been a short version. I don't know. This is pretty much what they're getting to be, 20 minutes. But I think that's all we really need for Spencer Uncensored. If you want to get more business and you want to be able to do the things that you keep hearing everybody tell you, you got to provide value, you got to do that kind of stuff, you got to have all 3 of these pieces. And you're probably going to need to raise your social media game. All right. Y'all have a good night. I'll see those of you that are in the insider groups. I'll see you on Wednesday Night Live tomorrow night. And until then, keep well, keep moving forward.